There is a moment when you realize your choices were never truly your own. You wake up and see your life, the job you didn't want, relationships that drain you, words that feel foreign in your mouth. Suddenly, you understand. You've been dancing to music you never chose. Chapter 1. The Invisible Strings. The strings are invisible, but they're there, pulling at your conscience, tugging at your fears, guiding you down paths that serve everyone but yourself. Manipulation doesn't announce itself. It whispers. It suggests. It makes you believe the cage you're building is actually your sanctuary. Think about yesterday. How many decisions were truly yours? That favor you couldn't refuse? That yes when everything screamed no? That smile while your soul felt heavy with resentment? The invisible strings are woven from your childhood wounds, your need for approval, your fear of confrontation. And the cruelest part? The people pulling them often believe they're Chapter 2. The Theater of Control. Welcome to the theater where you are both actor and audience, never realizing someone else wrote the script. The manipulator isn't a villain in a dark cape. They're the charming friend who makes you feel guilty for having boundaries, the caring parent who loves you conditionally, the leader who confuses loyalty with servitude. They are craftsmen of emotion, artists of influence. They know that manipulation begins long before words are spoken. It starts with understanding your deepest needs and weaponizing them against you. Charm becomes their currency, guilt their instrument, fear their foundation. They don't break you down. They build you up in their image, making you grateful for the very chains that bind you. The theater is always open. The show never ends. And you've been performing their script so long. You've forgotten you ever had lines of your own. Chapter 3. The Psychology of the Puppet. Why do we dance when they pull the strings? The answer lies not in their power, but in our wounds. We are susceptible because we hunger for approval, like a starving person hungers for bread. We fear rejection more than we value our truth. We carry guilt for every moment we dare to put ourselves first. The manipulator doesn't create these wounds. They simply find them and pour salt. They feed not on power, but on our unhealed pain, our desperate need to be seen, accepted, loved. Every yes when we mean no is not kindness, it's self-betrayal. Every silence when we should speak is not peace, it's surrender. We become accomplices in our own imprisonment, and the bars are made of our own insecurities. Chapter 4. The Wound That Obeys. The child in you still believes that love must be earned, that acceptance comes with conditions, that your worth depends on your willingness to sacrifice yourself. This wounded child is the manipulator's favorite target. It remembers being told that good children don't argue, that love is withdrawn when you disobey, that your needs matter less than keeping others comfortable. These childhood programming creates the perfect environment for adult manipulation. You learned early that survival meant becoming what others needed you to be, even if it meant abandoning who you truly were. Self-ignorance becomes the manipulator's most powerful weapon. As long as you don't understand your own patterns, you'll keep repeating them. As long as you don't see your wounds, they'll keep bleeding control into every relationship. Chapter 5. Emotional Armor. The Birth of Awareness. The transformation begins the moment you stop reacting and start observing. Emotional immunity doesn't mean becoming cold. It means becoming conscious. It's learning to pause between trigger and response, to watch your emotions without being consumed by them. You begin to notice the patterns, how certain people always leave you feeling drained, how specific situations make your stomach clench, how particular phrases make you want to shrink and comply. This awareness is your first piece of armor, not the heavy, suffocating kind, that walls you off from the world, but the flexible, intelligent kind that protects while allowing you to remain open to genuine connection. You learn to feel without drowning, to care without losing yourself, to love without becoming enslaved. Chapter 6. The Art of Unpredictability. When you become unpredictable, you shatter their scripts. Manipulators rely on your patterns. They count on your people-pleasing, your guilt, your predictable responses to their emotional triggers. But when you stop following the expected script, their power dissolves. Silence becomes your ally. Not the passive silence of submission, but the powerful silence of choice. Sometimes the most devastating response to manipulation is no response at all. Distance becomes your strategy. Not cruel abandonment, but conscious boundary setting. You learn that you don't owe anyone your presence, your energy, or your compliance. Ambiguity becomes your shield. When they can't predict you, they can't control you. When they can't manipulate your emotions, they lose their primary weapon. Chapter 7. The Fortress Within, Identity and Integrity. A person who truly knows themselves cannot be moved by external pressure. The manipulator thrives on your confusion about who you are, what you want, what you value. They exploit the gaps in your self-knowledge, the uncertainty in your convictions. But when you build your identity on solid ground, on your values, not their expectations, on your truth, not their version of you, manipulation loses its foundation. You stop asking, "What will they think?" and start asking, "What do I know to be true?" You stop seeking their approval and start honoring your own integrity. This inner fortress isn't built from arrogance or isolation. It's constructed from self-awareness, self-respect, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you stand for. Chapter 8. The Enemy in the Mirror. The hardest truth to face: manipulation persists because part of you allows it. Perhaps it's easier to let others make your decisions. Perhaps playing the victim gives you a twisted form of power. Perhaps being needed, even in unhealthy ways, feels better than being alone. We must examine our secret desire to be deceived, our hidden investment in remaining small, our unconscious belief that we don't deserve better treatment. Sometimes we enable manipulation because it feeds our martyrdom complex. Sometimes we invite it because it confirms our worst beliefs about ourselves. Sometimes we perpetuate it because changing would require us to take full responsibility for our lives. The enemy in the mirror is not evil, just afraid. Afraid of freedom, of choice, of the responsibility that comes with authentic living. Chapter 9. Love, Guilt, and the Golden Cage. The most sophisticated manipulation hides behind the word love. Family members who withdraw affection when you don't comply. Partners who threaten abandonment when you show independence. Mentors who demand loyalty while offering only conditional care. They build you a golden cage and call it love. They clip your wings and call it protection. They control your choices and call it guidance. Real love doesn't require your obedience. It doesn't demand your sacrifice. It doesn't make you smaller to make itself feel bigger. Love that comes with conditions isn't love at all. It's manipulation wearing love's mask. And recognizing this truth, even when it shatters your illusions about people you care about, is essential for your freedom. Chapter 10. Boundaries and the Cost of Freedom. Learning to say no is learning to say yes to yourself. Boundaries are not aggression. They're self-respect. They're not walls to keep everyone out. They're gates that you control. They don't make you cold. They make you clear. But boundaries come with a cost. Some people will be angry when you stop being endlessly available. Some will guilt you for no longer accepting unacceptable treatment. Some will leave when they realize they can't use you anymore. This is not loss. This is clarity. Peace built on your submission is not peace at all. Relationships maintained through your self-betrayal are not relationships worth keeping. The cost of freedom is sometimes loneliness, but the cost of bondage is always yourself. Chapter 11. The Machiavellian Mind. To protect yourself from manipulation, you must understand how manipulation works. This doesn't mean becoming manipulative yourself. It means becoming strategically aware. You learn to read behavior instead of believing words. You observe patterns instead of accepting explanations. You develop what Machiavelli called the lion and the fox, the strength to stand your ground and the cunning to see through deception, not to harm others, but to protect yourself. You use silence as a tool of clarity, not cruelty. You employ distance as a method of discernment, not revenge. You practice detachment as a form of wisdom. Chapter 12. Seeing Beyond Masks. The manipulation you face personally is part of a larger game being played on society itself. Social media algorithms designed to trigger your insecurities. Political rhetoric crafted to bypass your rational mind. Advertising that creates problems just to sell you solutions. The modern world is a theater of manipulation, and most of the audience doesn't realize they're part of the show. But once you develop the eyes to see individual manipulation, you begin to see the collective patterns. Your personal awakening becomes a lens through which you view the entire world differently. You see the strings being pulled everywhere, in media, in politics, in culture itself. Chapter 13. Cold clarity. Emotional regulation is psychological dominance. When you can remain calm while others lose control, when you can think clearly while others react emotionally, when you can observe objectively while others are swept away by feeling, you hold the ultimate power. This isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally intelligent. It's learning to feel your emotions without being controlled by them, to acknowledge them without being enslaved by them. Cold clarity is not cold-heartedness. It's the discipline of seeing clearly, thinking rationally, and responding consciously, rather than reacting unconsciously. How many of your choices are truly free? Most of our decisions are pre-programmed by fear, conditioned by guilt, shaped by unconscious patterns we inherited from childhood. We think we're choosing, but we're really just following invisible programming. True freedom begins when you see the cage, when you recognize how your past experiences, social conditioning, and emotional wounds have been making your choices for you. The shadow of free will is the recognition that most of what you call choice is really just unconscious reaction, but within this recognition lies the seed of actual freedom. Chapter 15. The Breaking of the Spell. There comes a moment when you finally cut the invisible strings. It's not dramatic, it's quiet. It happens in the space between stimulus and response, in the pause between pressure and compliance, in the silence between their demand and your automatic yes. You feel the old familiar pull, the guilt, the fear, the need to please. But this time, you don't follow it. This time, you choose differently. The spell breaks not with a bang, but with a whisper. No. The discomfort is real. The isolation can be profound. But in that space of authentic choice, you meet yourself, perhaps for the first time. Chapter 16. The Strategist's Mind. You emerge transformed, no longer the puppet, but the observer of the game. You see manipulation attempts before they fully form. You recognize emotional hooks before they catch you. You understand the psychology behind the pressure before it affects you. This isn't about becoming manipulative yourself. It's about becoming unmanipulatable. You play the game from a position of awareness, not reaction. The new you is calm, observant, sovereign. Manipulation loses its grip because you now see the game from above rather than being caught within it. Chapter 17. Freedom Beyond Approval. True freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. It's the wisdom to know why you want it. You no longer need others to validate your choices because you understand the source of your own desires. You no longer fear their disapproval because you've learned to approve of yourself. This doesn't make you selfish, it makes you authentic. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. This doesn't make you isolated. It makes you free to connect genuinely rather than needfully. Clarity becomes stronger than affection. Truth becomes more valuable than acceptance. Solitude becomes wiser than submission. Chapter 18. The Silence After Awareness. In the end, you find yourself in a place of quiet power. You no longer seek to control others, nor do you fear their attempts to control you. Manipulation fades from your life, not because you fight it, but because awareness has replaced ignorance. You've learned the greatest secret. The only person you can truly control is yourself. And that control over your thoughts, your reactions, your choices, is the only control you ever really needed. The invisible strings that once moved you still exist in the world, but they cannot control what they cannot manipulate. And they cannot manipulate someone who has learned to see clearly, think independently, and choose consciously. You stand in the silence after awareness, no longer the puppet, no longer the victim, no longer the unconscious participant in others' games. You are awake, you are aware, you are free, and in that freedom, you discover that the greatest manipulation of all was the belief that you were powerless to choose differently. The truth stands still, quietly victorious, and so do you.